Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon. Please have a seat. I'm really delighted to be kind of emceeing the pitching sessions of the Miami Mobility Challenge. It's called the M2 Challenge. We see this as a very essential part of what we do at Commotion, whether it's here in Miami or back in Los Angeles, where we also have the LA New Mobility Challenge. We very much want to encourage innovation, young innovators. If you could please keep it down back there. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Encouraging innovation is very core to what we do. And I think it's extremely important for any urban geography like Miami that is pitching to the future. We need to make sure that this is a good, encouraging environment for innovation, for startups, and things like that. And so the Miami Mobility Challenge, we got quite a lot of entries. We're really delighted with the quality of it. We've picked 3 finalists who are here today. The teams are here today, and welcome. We have a remarkable jury that we've put together: Cesar Fernandez, Michelle Abbs, Alex Roy, Greg Kruger. Good to see you, Greg. Hope we get a chance to talk later. And we'll be hearing from each of these 3 groups, and they are Umojo from Chicago, I believe, a terrific student team from the Integrated Intelligent Transportation System Lab of the Florida International University. Welcome. And lastly, a team from Cambridge Systematics, presented by Lila Singer-Burke. And I think Cambridge Systematics is based, as the name implies, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, I believe. So the criteria I would like to remind our distinguished jury are really a demonstration of the potential to improve safety, which is important, technical accomplishment, creativity, and lastly, clarity of presentation. And then before I invite Rick Neubauer, the founder and CEO of Umojo, to the stage to pitch and present, I just want to say a word about iStreet, which is a remarkable collaboration in Gainesville, of the city of Gainesville, of the University of Florida, and the Florida Department of Transportation. And for all those who may be unaware of iStreet, it is a kind of a remarkable collaborative network of the real world testbed of streets going into the university in Gainesville with all sorts of sensors and things like that. And so they're doing very, very good work. A lot of interesting testing is going on there. And I want to say also that the winner, and we will announce the winner tomorrow, will be invited to collaborate with the city of Gainesville and the Miami-Dade County on a pilot implementation. So very, very exciting. So I would like to call on stage, without further ado, Rick Neubauer, founder and CEO of Umojo. Hey, Rick, how are you doing? Over to you. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
No worries. Yeah, if you guys want, I'm gonna have my team come up too, just for the Q&A also, if that's okay. First of all, I want to say thanks to the Commotion for letting us participate. And I think what I hope is a pretty interesting way that we're using artificial intelligence for safety. You guys want to sit down if you can, or you can stand around me, whatever y'all want to do. It's all good. So let me get this thing kicked off here. So just to give you a little background, so I started the company in 2011, mostly around command center or for off-street parking. We provide call center and command center for 9 of the top 10 parking operators in the country today. And then about 4 years ago, we started focusing around city stuff and making in smart city, curb management, how we make it work, how do we use technology, and obviously with a lot of the artificial intelligence technologies that have been blossoming, we started to play around with that. And with our history with video analytics and voice over IP, it really kind of fit well with the experience that we had. So we started what we call as the Next City platform, and it's our AI engine that's really designed it's a platform to take silos of data and then bring everything together in a centralized platform for whether it's, mobile data, on-street data, off-street data, analytics, video data, whatever anybody wants, but bring it into a centralized place the city can have where they own the data. It's not getting sold for marketing purposes, things like that. There we go. So this is our platform here. You'll see where we took the data from the iStreet, kind of analyzed it. Noticed that a lot of the data that was there, for example, from a safety perspective, was the only information was really accident reports from the police, right? I think 13 or 14 people per year that were getting hit. And we started to look at that. We looked at a lot of the video that you guys had and noticed that there's a lot of near misses or things that are happening that no one ever knows about, right? They only know when someone actually gets hit by a car or gets, runs a red light, things like that. So we started to analyze the video. We overlaid our analytics on top of it to basically come up with a near miss model, which I'll demonstrate in a little bit here. To give an idea of our overview, everything lives in Microsoft Azure or on top of the Microsoft Power Platform. We utilize Power BI, our video analytics engine. We're actually building a 3D model inside of HoloLens. I don't know if you're familiar with HoloLens, but it's an augmented reality, virtual reality interface for it. Everything we build is API driven. So any data that we collect at the edge gets piped up to Azure and then allows you to be able to connect to it and pull data from it via API. And then we can also tie in, like you see the top right, our third-party data like mobile apps or traffic data, things like that. So I'll give you another example that we're doing. We just did a project very similar to what we're doing here. Same engine, just we're tuning it for different things. Bellevue, Washington has a problem with people double parking and has issues with Uber or FedEx, Amazon parking in the middle of the street, double parking on the side of the road, parking where they shouldn't be parking. So you can give an example here where we're using this AI engine to provide type of car, color, how long it's been sitting there for. You can see there's an Aramark truck there in the middle, so we're seeing that it's an Aramark and marking that as an Aramark vehicle. If any vehicles have been parked for more than 2 hours, then we tag that into our database and then store that in our data for API access. This is another camera view. So take that data, pipe it up into our dashboard, can provide any kind of analytics that you want to see. I'm going to move forward now to what we talked about with you guys, which is where we're taking the data from iStreet, compiling that together, and going over it with our AI, and again, storing all that information into a database. And I will get to the video here. Here it is. So here we're able to track anywhere up to like 250 to 300 different objects at one time. We're classifying them by people. So you'll see the people that are walking across the sidewalk are in a green area, but there's a guy just at the bottom left that's walking across that's jaywalking, so to speak. So we'll red flag that. You'll see also each vehicle in there is also being tagged and tracked by color, by type of vehicle. There's a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done here to really kind of hone it in for a production ready, but for the amount of time we put into it, I think it's a pretty interesting model. Now, what we're also doing in the bottom left, you see, is a heat map where we're tracking where people walk and where vehicles go, and then where there's any near misses where those bounding boxes or those devices come close to together, then we'll take that data right to the database and be able to for example, integrate to the traffic light system, which you can see in the top right, which is just tracking where people are at the crosswalk, at the stop, in the right lane, in the left lane. Integrate that data together to be able to provide either a prediction analysis of, hey, this person looks like they're about to get hit by a car, or after the fact, notifying or sending an alert that somebody has been hit or almost got hit, so we can start to track and figure out where there's problem areas in that intersection or in that view. One other thing that's interesting about this too is we're using your guys' video that you provided for this on a warped or fisheye camera lens with our AI model. So we're not de-warping it and then analyzing it that way. This is happening in real time in the fisheye lens. So, and I'm actually, that 7 minutes goes by fast. So that's it. And one other thing to last too, that if you want to see though, there's a heat map of the different people, of vehicles, and then of all of it put together that we use to track near misses and write the database. And that's it. Thank you. It went by quick.
Yes, thank you very much. Now we have, the judges will lob some very, very tough questions your way.
All right.
7 minutes.
Do you all also make prescriptions of policy changes or design changes or infrastructure changes with this data? Or is it simply like, here's the data and this is for you to determine what to do with?
Let's see that it's working good. So the plan is obviously with our whole Next City platform is to be able to provide that. We basically have this model of measure, analyze, execute, right? The reason I just talked about this particular thing was that was what was for this particular competition. But yeah, obviously that we would provide a full database and then analytics around that. So if you want to say, hey, in the last 30 days, where were there near misses? What area were they? Let me see a heat map of what had happened in that over that particular intersection. And obviously at scale, you can see it up from a higher level with multiple places or down at each one in particular, and then be able to provide to make policy changes based on that.
Who's the customer? What's the revenue model?
Great question. So we've got a couple different revenue models. Number one of the revenue models is mostly a revenue per camera or per device that we're analyzing and storing data for. From a data storage perspective, the customer is basically storing it in their own. And we're managing it for them, but it's in Office 365 or Microsoft Azure account that we'll set up for the customer. The real driver for that is just data sovereignty. So it's their data, it's in their environment, they control access to it, what have you, and then we connect in all of our analytical pieces. So at the moment, the revenue model for what you see today is going to be on a per camera basis of around about $100 a month per camera is what we're planning.
So where does it go from here? You've got the data coming from DOT, your system does the analysis and creates the heat map. Then where does it go? Where do you take it and work with it, and where do you drop it back off to the end user?
Great question. So if you go back to the slide, we've got an interface built for it that's inside of Power BI that we present to you that you can use to manage your own data or monitor your own data, look at your own data, what have you. As far as where it goes from here, I mean, it's really what a customer wants to do it from a policy change, right? The data, like I said, the data is all, it doesn't just live there. It's not just, you can only see it in your eyes and then off it goes. We're storing it all in database and you can go back in time, look at it over a year's worth of time, whatever you'd like. So I haven't quite got an answer for you on what people are going to want long-term, because I don't know what the cities want. Everybody seems to want different results or different things out of the pieces that we're analyzing.
So I don't know if you can go back or not, but how do you, so the near misses you were showing, it looked like every pedestrian was considered a near miss.
No, that was just where they were walking across the crosswalk. So what we're doing is and actually you can answer this too, Oscar, but.
Right, I mean, it's more like while the near miss right now, we're defining as the simplest thing.
Hold up the mic, please.
If there's right turns and traffic going over a crosswalk while people are crossing it.
We're using pixel basically just how many pixels between a bounding box or a device might happen while someone's walking across or while a car is turning or going straight.
Scrubbing out all the data. So scrubbing out all the data for people who are following policy. So if you're in the crosswalk at a crosswalk signal, as you saw, they were coded in red or green. So they're following the rules. It's the jaywalkers, it's the anomalies that we're identifying. So that otherwise you're right, you're capturing near misses every time a bus was at a traffic light, someone was at the crosswalk. That's not what we're defining as a near miss.
So I'm hogging the microphone, but I'll keep asking.
You are.
Okay. In terms of the next steps, given the chance to do a deployment in Miami or Gainesville, what's the next step of development you're looking to achieve from the project?
Great question. So we're working on a few different cities that we're doing competitions very similar to this. And one of the biggest problems we run into is that having a great idea and even being able to implement it, putting it into reality is the toughest thing. And it's not even from a concept of will it work and can we make it work? It's more of, hey, great, you want to put it on the street. Are there cameras on the street? Is there power to plug a camera into the street? Is there a device, or do you have cameras? Do you want us to provide cameras? And every city's got a different scenario, I think, that we run into. So what we actually have done now is we're just about to release our own battery powered camera that's solar powered as well, that where you can just mount it to a pole, hold it to a tree, and then we can provide all that analytics, and then all those bureaucratic challenges go out the window. We don't have to deal with that. And again, we'll include that part of the monthly recurring revenue model that we talked about.
So can you talk a little bit about privacy and transparency and how you're communicating with the public around these cameras and their uses?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Well, so I think it's to us, I mean, we're collecting the data for the city, so we're basically, my opinion is that we're going under whatever policies that city has with their constituents or their citizens or what have you. The data, we don't even own the data. We don't even have access to the data. We take the data, put it into your database. It's your data, We don't sell it off. We don't use it for marketing purposes, what have you.
Was that the closeout sign? Oh,
I mean, yeah, it's just I've got 3 minutes left.
oh, great.
Sure.
So I do have a question here. You do have some type of like cloud solution that retains the data though, right? Like if you,
Sure.
let's say like if tomorrow you were subpoenaed by like the Department of Justice and said, hey, your camera captured this footage. Can you give this to us? We can't get the city of Gainesville. They're playing hardball and don't want to actually comply with this.
No, I mean,
How do you respond to such a request?
I mean, the data is not our data. It's your data. It's the city's data. It's in a database that the city only has access to. We don't have access to the data. It lives there. Now, I mean, if one of my developers has access to it, sure, because he's writing a Power BI interface for it or something. But from a 50,000 foot view, it's the city's data. It's not our data. It's not housed in our environment. It's housed in an environment owned by the city in their own tenant with their own security model.
And a quick follow-up question, do you like blur out faces and identifying information of the footage that you're capturing?
It's a good question. No one's asked us to do that yet, but we could easily do that, especially if we're going to make it to where it's a public facing thing. What we're starting to do now is do snapshots of when events get stored to the database. We've got a snapshot at the beginning and a snapshot at the end for ground truthing. Eventually, what we would like to do, just from the sense of being able to provide a full cradle to grave interface, is to provide a video of that. So then, yeah, we'd cover over faces, blur out license plates, things like that, if that was required. Sure.
Great.
And one quick follow-up to that. We've had a couple of applications where it's been curb management focused, where license plate data is required. So while we could scrub it, it's actually part of the project, so they can identify who's authorized to be in a location, who's not, so they can dispatch enforcement. So it's, we're kind of following the city's discretion.
We could also do it. Sorry. So we could also do it to where we're utilizing the LPR data for analysis and for tracking or connected to a mobile parking mobile app or something. And then any interface that people see, carry it out as well. That's done as well. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? We have no further
All
questions.
right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, team from Umojo. Next, we have the terrific team, the crew IITS from Florida International University. My friend Syed Ahmed Morshed, come on stage. Okay, thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm just waiting for my presentation to get on the screen. So before, like I'm gonna give a short introduction. I'm Syed Ahmed Morshed from IITS, and with me here today is my team, Kamar, Atika, and Mamoon. We're all from Florida International University. We are all PhD students, and we are gonna talk about our safety application for shared mobility and personal micromobility that we have developed, which is called Micro Alert. Okay. So before I move into our idea, I just want to highlight the impact of shared micromobility. As you can see, shared micromobility usage has been growing exponentially over the past decade. And the revenue earned from micromobility usage has been highest in North America, to be exact, $1 billion USD till 2020. Moving on. So what is the problem statement? Like, what are we trying to solve here? So we saw that, like all new trends, the lack of safety measures and standards for micromobility involved incidents. especially between the year 2017 and 2019, 41 Americans was killed and more than 130,000 were injured due to micromobility crashes. And also, what we figured out, like while we're trying to solve this issue, we didn't find any well-archived crash data particularly related to micromobility users. So to develop safety measures and standards for micromobility related crashes, we thought about why not we develop something which can help us research about this data. So what are we basically doing here? We have developed a testbed simulation platform to understand the multi-scenario analysis for micromobility users. And then we have developed a beta version of an app, which is called MicroAlert, as I've said. And then finally, what we're trying to do is we're gonna archive all sorts of micromobility related crashes in our system. All right. So before going to the technical part, I'm just gonna discuss about the strength, weakness, and opportunity and threat. We have identified the strength that the market is like, it's relatively new and our idea is relatively new and we're providing a low-cost solution. But however, we have been dealing with problems like adding a plugin for the existing mobile application user used for shared micromobility and also installation of monitoring systems. But we have high opportunity for instant rate of good return, and we're looking forward for public and private collaborations along with future expansion of the app. And for threats, we have also assessed and identified the current problems that we all have is COVID-19 pandemic, because the micromobility users will go down and the privacy concerns, but what we are looking finally to tackle that. Then this is our prospective growth model. Currently, we're in phase 1, we developed the test bed and we're in the process of doing the plugin development. By the year 2022, we want to release the beta version of the app and commercialize it. And by 2023, we want to launch the premium version of the app. So here we developed an algorithm, and the algorithm is divided into 2 types. One is for the interaction between the motorist and the non-motorist, which is pedestrian and private and shared micromobility users. Another is one between the pedestrian and the PMSs who shared the sidewalk. To better understand this, I will go one by one through the scenarios that we have developed. So in this case 1 is the potential crash between a vehicle and a non-motorist. As you can see, the pedestrian is reaching the curb of the sidewalk, and our app will pick this up and it will send an alert to the dashboard of the connected vehicle, and he will get an alert. And in the next scene, as you can see, the PMSS and the pedestrian is already in the mid section. So, and there is no passenger crossing button for them, and our app will pick this up and send an alert to the onboard unit of the car. And in the next section, this is the second part of the algorithm that we developed. So what about the safety of the pedestrians and the micromobility users in the sidewalk? So as you can see, if the distance is close and there is an irregular speed, our app will pick up this and send an alert to the pedestrian using the app or the micromobility users using the app. So what kind of data basically we used here? So we basically use simple data provided us by iStreet, that is the location data and the speed data of the pedestrian, private and shared micromobility, and the vehicles of the road. So here, the following video, you will see a small simulation of what we did. As you can see, there is an e-bike trying to cross the road. And when it's in the midsection, the onboard unit of the vehicle will get an alert, and it will either slow down or stop. And then moving on, you can see the pedestrians will be coming from the upper side. When it reaches near the curb, even before it crosses the street, the onboard unit of the connected vehicle will get an alert based on the sensor system of the application, mobile application that we developed. Okay, and the next step, here is another scenario that we developed, is basically between the pedestrian and the micromobility users. As you can see, the scooter, can you go back? As you can see, the scooter was approaching the pedestrian. So because of the irregular speed, the app, the warning pops up in the application of the pedestrian. Now, yeah, now moving on. So this is the prototype we developed. This is currently we have developed this for the Android version. It's just a beta version of the app. And for case one, scenario one, everyone will get alert like this. This is just simply based on the location and the speed data that we have collected from iStreet. And the last stage that's still in the conceptual phase, but we're still working on it. So we wanted to develop a platform to archive all the data. First of all, so what we're planning is cloud-based data archiving from police incident reports, and then the two new systems of data archiving, proactive data reporting, and finally interactive data reporting by the witness and the micromobility users themselves. So thank you all. That's all. That's it. So micromobility is the future, and we are hoping that micro alert is going to safeguard it. And I want to finally thank Commotion for inviting us as an all-student team. We're really delighted to be here, and we're really honored. Thank you all. Thank you, judges.
What's the business? Who's the customer? How do you make money?
There are various stages of customers, but for the time being, what we have, any shared mobility users, they have an app that they use, but that only provides information about the device itself. It doesn't ensure safety. So our first target customers are those customers who are using e-scooters, e-bike, hoverboards, etc. And the next level is, once we develop this, we are also targeting pedestrians, and especially when we did the test bed simulation on the University of Florida section, the students who are using the sidewalks. And we're also going to add that plugin for the official university app so that they receive the safety warnings in their apps as well. Yeah.
So is the logic that a micromobility company would build the functionality into their app and pay you like a per seat license?
That is one of the steps, but we are not only trying to convince the micromobility companies, existing micromobility companies, we are also trying to sell this concept to public agencies as well, so that they can ensure safety on the sidewalks or in the road, and people like who are jaywalking or crossing the streets, especially in the university and dorm areas, who doesn't always like push the button to cross the road in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day, anytime.
So your hope is that cities will incentivize pedestrians to use the app.
Of course, because micromobility is the next big thing. And before COVID-19 hit us, it was one of the booming business in the US. Especially we are looking at, it was supposed to go to 200% increase in the year 2025. But however, the COVID-19 set it back, but it's the next best business we have.
Great, thank you for the presentation. I think to me, the challenge was very clear that you presented. Curious about, you're trying to increase safety, but alerting people through an app on their phone could be distracting or could, eventually lead to something else, right? In the moment. Is there a world where you think about sort of the same way that an autonomous vehicle stops when there's an alert? There's actually some sort of on the micromobility unit stopping mechanism instead of just an alert.
You mean the micromobility device or the automated vehicles?
On the device, right? So if I'm on a scooter and I'm about to hit someone versus this pops up on my phone, now I got to look on what am I about to hit? What do I do? Right? That actually could potentially cause a different safety challenge.
That's a very good question. So in our test-bed simulation, what we developed is we looked in the connected vehicles. So the person driving the vehicle will not receive any kind of alert. He doesn't need to have the app itself. It will appear on his dashboard. For example, we all use maps or we all use signs and everything like on our vehicles. So the onboard unit will show you the warning for the vehicles. That's really a very good question. We kept that in mind because you don't want to be driving and suddenly something pops up and you are not aware of what's happening. So that's for the vehicles itself. The app users, basically the personal and shared micromobility users, they will have the app automatically in their phone because they're going to use it If it is a shared, they must have the app. If they're personal, if they're a pedestrian, or if if it's a personal vehicle, they're gonna have it just because of the fact that it's gonna safety. So we're not looking to, and on the sidewalk. So we're not looking for drivers to have the app. That's not our scope for this research here.
So you'd have to onboard all of the car companies then, correct, to be able to have this software in the car?
Not all the car companies, like we have roadside units. We're talking about connected vehicles. So if you have like connected vehicles have GPS locations all the time switched on. So we are not looking for car companies to take this in. It's just for the public side to take care of it. Thank you.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Question, purpose. Your purpose statement at the beginning seemed to be on the logging of the data regarding crashes so you could better do analysis. Your closing seemed to be on that. The whole middle seemed to be on an application for in-vehicle warning. So help me understand what it is you're trying to solve.
Yes.
And because looks like you're trying to solve a whole lot of problems here when your statement was to solve specifically the recording of the data for crash analysis to be able to make things safer.
Thank you. That's a very, very good question, because we started up, to be honestly, we started up to develop an archive system just to collect micromobility related incident data. But once we progressed with that, we saw that we can develop algorithms that can ensure safety as well. So basically, as we have said, our system, once the premium version of the app gets out, it will have an archiving system as well as a safety system. So for example, how can we make normal pedestrians and personal shared mobility users to use that one? So that's why we included the safety part in that. And as we have mentioned in the last slide, that the data archiving system is a unique one, because we are not only archiving data from police incident reports via cloud-based, but we are also looking for interactive and proactive data archiving system. For example, if you witness an accident and if you are a micromobility user, you can upload the incident report and it will go in the record for that. So it's a complete package. We're not looking, we started with one thing, but it's gonna give a safety as well as a data archive system at the same time.
Thank you.
For this to work, do you need the buy-in of micromobility companies?
My bad.
For this to work, do you need the buy-in of mobility companies? Like
Buy-in, you mean?
Yeah, like you need them to actually, support this effort, right?
Yes, to be honest, yes, because we cannot develop an app if we don't have a micromobility company for the time being, because we're gonna test this on shared mobility first of all, and then we're gonna slowly graduate and develop this app by 2023, the premium version that we're gonna say, so that personal users can also use that. And on the other hand, what we're trying to do here, for example, in the test-based simulation, what we did was the results we got from was the I-Street data. So we believe that the students who are using the sidewalks will also have their official university app. So that's why we are building a plugin, not the app itself for the time being. So we're just gonna use that plugin, give that plugin to the existing users. So the micromobility companies do not have to redevelop their app. They just can install the plugin and then they're set to go.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Next, I want to call up Lila Singer-Burke from Cambridge Systematics. Lila.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much to Commotion and iStreet for having us here this afternoon. We're really excited to talk to you about our solution to safety, which we're calling CSAF. We're really interested in improving safety at the intersection. So what do we know about safety and where collisions occur? First of all, we know that half of all collisions happen at the intersection. We also know that equity populations are most likely to be affected by traffic deaths and traffic injuries. So for example, people traveling through low-income communities are more likely to be struck and hit by a car. And then while Florida does many things really, really well, unfortunately, it consistently ranks among the least safe place for pedestrians and cyclists. So historically, the way that planners and engineers have assessed safety is by looking at historical crash data. There are a few issues with that. First of all, it's collected by police officers. It's often incomplete. It's inefficient to process, and it doesn't necessarily show the full picture of what's going on in terms of safety. And at the same time, we're seeing more and more of these video cameras entering the urban interface. And iStreet is a perfect example of that. So there's video camera data available that can be leveraged for solving safety problems. So our solution is to introduce the ISD, the Intersection Safety Dashboard. This is a dashboard for stakeholders to be able to go in and see the scores of each intersection with video camera data. We provide a bike, ped, and a composite score. It's based on big data and AI and supported in several ways with safety analytics. So we'd like to get into our concept demonstration and just talk a little bit about how this actually works and how we go from video data to a tool that stakeholders can use in real time. So here you see the video data, and what's happening here is that we're identifying different objects like the cars and the pedestrians. And so what we're able to do with this video data is we're able to extract the trajectories and then move from the trajectories into the actual conflicts and creating conflict profiles. For this methodology, we use a tool that's been proven in the industry called SAM. It's been supported by the FHWA, and it's a proven tool that transportation planners and engineers use. So the system architecture we've developed is pretty detailed, but what I'd like to highlight here is that our product doesn't just rely on the video data. If you look in the first column here, we rely on several different data sources and bring that into a data warehouse. For example, we use weather data, and all together we go through several steps to get to the dashboard that's useful for decision makers. So getting into the dashboard, if you're familiar, you may be familiar with dashboards, especially during COVID, with a lot of these things where people can go in and select their area. What we would like to do is provide a dashboard at the system level and at the intersection level. At the system level, you can see it's a bird's eye view of all the different intersections with video camera data. And so what we do is we provide an average composite score for the safety of all intersections. We also have customizable filters. You're able to look in the chart up there at the volume and the relationship between traffic volumes and the safety scores. And furthermore, you can zoom in and take a look at different intersections and see the scores. So you can really compare where do you need to prioritize safety countermeasures. The second tab is the intersection level tab. So here we're zooming in on one specific intersection, University Ave and 17th Street. So here we have several other features, lots of analytics, the scores. We've got conflict density. This is really specific identification of where in the intersection you need more conflicts are occurring. And there's trend analysis, so you can compare the bike, ped, and other score and composite score. And then we also have a way to see the relationship of different factors of going into the score, and some customizable crosstabs. So altogether, there's really a lot of data for stakeholders to make decisions and go in and see what they need to see. We'd like to talk about one specific application. So Miami-Dade County has a goal to have 0 traffic deaths and serious injuries by 2030. So to meet this Vision Zero goal, it's necessary to understand where the biggest problems are. With the ISD, stakeholders can identify priority intersections, understand exactly what conflicts are occurring at those intersections, and then identify a safety countermeasure, such as a bike signal. And really importantly, they can do before-after studies to continue to monitor how that safety countermeasure is improving safety over time. So finally, I'd like to end on our value proposition and why we think our product is really going to save lives for this area. First of all, we identify not only where collisions have occurred, but we do as well identify the near misses. That's what's in the video data. So we're able to have that extra element of safety. We use real-time data. It's updated very frequently and efficiently. We also are able to do both the intersection level and the system level approach. So you get 2 different views of safety in the county. And it's continuously updated and for allowing for stakeholders to track measures over time. And finally, it can be adapted for stakeholder needs. For example, if stakeholders want to look at equity communities, put more weight on that, it can be adapted for that as well. So thank you all so much for your time. We're happy to answer questions and excited to get into it. Thank you so much.
Congratulations on an exceptionally good presentation.
Thank you.
It's really clear. All right, who pays? Who pays? What's the business?
All right, thank you. So our idea is to have to partner with cities, right, and bring them on board and start ingesting some of their data. Of course, making sure we hold. Oh, is it better now? Okay. So we really want to partner with cities, right, and bring them on board. So we will have beta users who will be willing to contribute this data to build this initial framework. But as we go on and as we bring more and more cities on board, right, the cost or the amount that is needed to scale it up is going to significantly reduce. So we're going to have economies of scale. And this is going to be kind of like a profit share model with the cities, where we build this dashboard and we build these analytics, but then we can also sell this to other stakeholders who might be interested in using this data. One stakeholder that comes to my mind off the top of my head is bike and ped advocacy groups. So if in a region, if someone wants to look at how their region is performing and then try to reach out to the agencies, we could also have a subscription-based model in that sort.
So I have a question that is very similar to what I asked Umojo, but I think it's an important one because if you look at a company like IITS, I'm not sure if you're familiar with a red light camera company, that scaled very quickly all around the country, made millions and millions of dollars facilitating law enforcement giving you a ticket by putting a camera on the red light. Great idea. And then every single city canceled their contracts because of this intrusion that caused this uproar that people would march down to City Hall and said, I don't want to be recorded. If you're going to give me a ticket, it better damn well be from a law enforcement officer that watched me run a red light, right? So how do you think of the privacy angle from that lens, which is it actually becomes kind of like a central business risk if you don't have the public's buy-in here, because they could very well just march into City Hall and ask the city to cancel your contract.
Right.
And
so
I looked at you because you had the mic, but anyone feel free to answer.
So I can answer that question. So I've seen in the video, we don't store the video in our databases. We use like the recent advances in edge computing. So we have this edge computing device which sits at the intersection, extracts the space-time trajectories out of it. Once you have the space-time trajectories, it's completely anonymous. Like we can't link it to a person or a vehicle or anything. So we are storing anonymized data, and the data will be sitting with the city. It won't be with us. So I think that answers your question, but I can clarify
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm very familiar with the sort of public outrage after what you were talking about with the signals and in the ticketing. This is very different because this is saving lives. This is very basically like, how can we improve safety for everyone? And so people aren't having like a cost to their pocketbook because of this or anything like that too. So I think it's something that the public will get behind as well.
Is there any opportunity to do any sort of predictive analysis? So if I think about sort of from a construction standpoint, whether we're going to put 2 lanes here versus 3 lanes here, and what's going to happen with this ramp merging with that ramp and how that might potentially impact, is there any opportunity to predict it, or is this sort of just looking back on the data set you have?
Can I answer that? Yeah. So right now, currently, it's not set for any sort of predictive analysis. It analyzes the current conditions. But obviously later on, if the application grows and we see there is a potential, we can add in more features, which would be really beneficial for other places. But we thought about it. What is a situation in which there is a construction going on road, and there is potential of more conflicts happening at that particular location. So this tool currently does take care of that. It will be able to see what's happening if there is construction going on at current intersection or any sort of road. And video is not just the only data we store. We are storing other sorts of data and collecting very anonymized data form where it has weather data as well as what's the geometric information of an intersection. So all those things helps a stakeholder or any transportation engineer to make any modification in the intersections, which is basically helps them for safety.
Sorry, you just said something. You're not storing video, are you? You just said you're
No.
storing video.
I'll make that clear. So the city, as far as I know, the cities don't store the data as far as I know. And what we envision it to be, obviously there is some sort of processing time in collecting the trajectories. Like everything happening real time would require significant amount of money from the whoever is paying for it, right? So we thought about it. Let's have it for half an hour. Extract the trajectories, delete the video. Just have the trajectories with you. We don't need any videos. We don't want anything to do with insurance companies.
Gotcha.
Anything to do with.
So let me
police.
ask my question then, because you made that statement. I wanted to give you a chance to back off of it there. In terms of differentiating between a near miss and a conflict, there's a significant difference. A conflict is just noise in the background. I don't care about that. How are you differentiating a potential conflict from a near miss in the video analytics?
So we mentioned it briefly. We are using something known as we are using surrogate safety measures, right? One thing with video cameras is that if, let's say you're looking at the fisheye camera, your predictions are going to be much better in the near field as compared to the far field. So we are building these customized algorithms to kind of like smoothen out the trajectories. And then we are using surrogate safety scores, which essentially what they do is they look at the 2 objects, right? And they track their speed and direction over time, and then find out what is the minimum time to collision. So you could have the collisions there, right? Which is t is equal to 0. But the near misses would be where, the time to collision is non-zero, but it's still very close. So that's how we will differentiate between conflicts and.
Thank you. I think we're all set. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's have a really big hand for all of the finalists. I want to mention that one of the particularities of the M2 Miami Mobility Challenge is that each company has been paired with at least one Florida University student in order to expand the kind of mobility network, bridge knowledge gaps, and develop student skills in the real world. So right now we're going to pass to a really exciting moment. Is in a few minutes, I guess. We'll have an update from the Commotion Lab Urban Air Mobility Task Force, which is chaired by Beth Kegel. So just hang in, and we'll hear from that in a few minutes. Thanks very much.